I was going to say good morning, and it still is morning. So good morning to everybody who's joining us today. This is just going to be the introduction to the Digital Diagnostic Cytopathology Specialist Portfolio. So I'm Donna Torrance. I'm the Head of Learning and Development at the Institute of Biomedical Science. And joining me is Leonie Wheeldon and Tracey Stevenson, who are part of the Specialist Advisory Panel for Cytopathology. I had to think about that there, sorry. And we're just going to run through what the new specialist portfolio for the diagnostic cytopathology looks like and what it looks like using Brightspace. So this meeting is being recorded. You've probably seen the little notice, and it will be put onto the website later for anybody who misses it. You can let people know since you're here. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen and show you what the portfolio looks like on Brightspace. Okay, so I've already logged in as somebody called Diagnostic Cytopathology, because obviously I was running out of ideas at the time. So it will appear with the modules that you have selected. Now, within the Diagnostic Cytopathology, there is one module that's optional, synovial fluids. So if you haven't selected that, it won't appear on your My Courses. So you can see all of the modules that you have relating to your specific discipline, and then everybody also has the quality module, an introductory module, and a final submission module. So just to give you an idea of what is in these modules, the introductory module has got the video on how to use Brightspace. So it's like a 30-minute video that just goes through, so it's 29 minutes that will go through for candidates and for trainers how you would use Brightspace. And then these are the sort of SOPs for how to use Brightspace for candidates and for trainers. So just some more specific screenshots. And you can obviously open them up and have a look at them. They'll just be PDFs. And then the guides are just separate. So the introductory module is really just going to be information on using Brightspace, and this might be updated and you'll be informed through a little notice on the main screen if there's been any changes. All of the other modules, apart from the final submission module, are the same. So the quality module, for example, this is applicable to everybody who's undertaking a specialist portfolio as we move forward. So any digital specialist portfolio, everybody does the quality module. Now, everybody therefore has to get the same learning outcomes and indicative content, the same aims of the module. So if I just show you the learning outcomes and indicative content, you can see there's quite a lot in here. What you have to remember is, don't panic, you're still going to be examined by somebody from your discipline if you're doing a discipline-specific portfolio. So the evidences that you present are going to be relevant to your discipline. Obviously, there are some elements of knowledge that are applicable across all disciplines and that just are, as a biomedical scientist, you would know them, and that's what you're having to demonstrate. But you're demonstrating primarily your evidence is obviously coming from your practice, and that's what the examiners will expect to see. There's this, so the learning outcomes are what you have to meet through your evidence. So it's still going to be the same evidence. There'll be a Q&A that's going to be set by or arranged with your training officer, and then there'll be additional piece of evidence selected by the candidate. Obviously, a training officer will say it's acceptable or not, and that would be submitted. The indicative content outlines knowledge that you might need to help you meet the learning outcomes, and it is something that you might be examined on during the Viva. And this is the same sort of structure for all of the different modules. Each of the modules has a resource section. Different resources are being put in as we speak. So the resources are kind of being updated at the moment. Once they've been updated for the initial launch period, they will then be monitored by the specialist advisory panels. So there'll be a kind of 6-monthly review of information, unless something needs to go in urgently, like updated guidelines. And then the submission of evidence is where we submit the 2 pieces of evidence, which would be our Q&A and the additional piece of evidence that we've selected. And you can upload it. You'll see through the training, you can save it onto the system and then upload it, or you can upload it through your computer if you've saved it on your computer. And then the other piece of evidence that's got to be submitted is going to be your reflective practice statement. Now, the reflective practice statement is now where the training officer will sign to say that the candidate works in accordance with laboratory procedures. And so, for example, if you were a training officer and you were signing things off, once you've signed it, you might decide, well, because I've done a copy and paste signature, because my trust is not paying for a digital signature, you might decide to PDF it so that all of your evidence will be PDF'd. So there's different ways that you can do that. But then the candidate would have this and they would submit it. So they would have their reflective statement and their statement of work for that section, and then they would upload it. There are options to be able to send work between the candidate and the trainer. So you've got a section that's my portfolio. So the candidate would use that to send work to their training officer. This is a candidate view. If you were a training officer, you would have a portfolio section where you would be able to view your candidate's work. And you just click on the little IBMS icon to take you to your homepage. So say all of the modules have got the same structure. Module information, which has got the aims, the learning outcomes and indicative content, resources, which will have different types of material. So at the moment, for example, we've got links to various websites here. It could be that there's PDFs or case studies, videos. As I say, things will be constantly added, or not constantly, but they will be regularly reviewed and regularly added and updated. And then we've got the submissions. So the only other module you've got that's different is your final submissions module. The final submission module is the one that you complete when you are ready to submit for assessment, right? So everything else has to be completed at that point. And then what you've got is your record of training reviews. So what was the initial sheet at the front of the current specialist portfolio is just a record of the reviews. Now, there is a template that you can use, but you can use any one that you like. So you can either use the template or you can upload it. And then you've got your final submission, which is the laboratory's repertoire and the candidate's scope of practice signed by the manager. So at the moment, we don't always get this with the application. And as an examiner, it can be a bit of a pain if you're trying to get it before the examination day. So it has to be uploaded at this point. Once you submit this module, that's the cue for the IBMS. We're going to now look at it and say, right, this person needs an assessor, and we're going to immediately try and find you an assessor. So don't submit the final submission modules until you're actually ready for assessment. For each of the other modules, when a candidate submits work, they will get an email to tell them that they've submitted for that particular module. But as I say, the only contact that the IBMS will have is when the final submission module is submitted. So that's pretty much it in terms of what, so that's taken about 6 minutes. That's pretty much it in terms of what Brightspace looks like. As I say, all of the modules that you need to do will appear on your homepage. Everybody has the introductory module, the quality module, and the final submission module, regardless of which other modules or which disciplines they're taking. If you had a multidiscipline, you would have all your different modules here with a different picture for some of them. And yeah, it would be the same process. So there's nothing particularly difficult about it. I don't actually have anything else to say about Brightspace. In terms of what's happening with the training, I'm just going to unshare at the moment. In terms of what's going to happen with the training, so the training video is available, the guides are available, and we're going to start getting people using the system and seeing the system. And after that, we'll start to do face-to-face and interactive sessions for training, then if people have got queries. Most people, unlike OneFile, they haven't used Brightspace, although the blood transfusion service use it, and so they're not so familiar with it. So I think once people kind of see it's been set up relatively straightforward, as I say, all the guides are there. So once people have started using it and they might have a bit more questions about how to use it, then we're going to do the face-to-face and the interactive. So that will probably be towards the end of May. So this portfolio is going to go live from Monday, and any applications received and processed from then, you will get the digital specialist portfolio. So I'm going to hand over to Tracey to start, who's going to talk a little bit more about the content, and we'll take questions at the end, if that's okay.
Okay, thanks, Donna. Right, let's just see if I can share my screen. Can you see that? Hopefully. So yeah, I've only got a couple of slides. So as Donna says, I'm really just going to tell you kind of what has changed from this portfolio from the previous one. So obviously, this scared lots of people. This was the portfolio that was set up in 2020 when we split the specialist portfolios for cytology because of the centralisation of all the cervical cytology. And this is what we came up with for the diagnostic cytology. So really, for those people who I have now completed this, well done. And the people that are waiting for the modular, you'll be pleased to know that it's not as big as this, obviously, for the one going forward. So what has changed? So we've actually gone from 17 modules to 7, and that is actually including a quality module. The 6 molecular units have actually been removed and replaced with a single module, which is on the cancer stratified medicine and role of ancillary testing. Ancillary testing obviously will be IHC, and biomarker testing will be included in that. As Donna said already, synovial fluid has become optional because not everybody does it, because microbiology does that in quite a lot of centres. We have kept in some basic fine needle aspiration and rows probably part of Q&A actually, and that's in the sample prep module. I think it's important that we keep that in. However, all the big units, which were head and neck, EUS and EBUS, have now been removed, as we have a specialist portfolio certificate purely on rows, so we felt it wasn't necessary to keep that in here. And then going forward, hopefully, I'm saying later this year, I'm hoping this will all be this year. Cervical cytology obviously will continue to have its own modular specialist portfolio, and andrology, which will have a post-vasectomy, because some places do andrology and post-vasectomy. They will have their own modular specialist portfolios later again, hopefully this year. So what's in the 7 mandatory modules? So if you were quick there and you were looking at what Donna was showing you, the first 6 on here, so it's kind of no surprise to anyone. Principles and practice of diagnostic cytology, the sample prep, and then, as I say, we've got the cancer stratified medicine and role of ancillary testing, and then obviously we've got the 3 main units that we have in all our portfolios: respiratory, serous and urine. Synovial we've kept as an optional, and again, as Donna says, quality is now a mandatory module, and that's going to be across all specialist portfolios going forward. And really, I don't have much else to say about it, apart from indicative content. All of them have got probably between 7 and 9 or 7 and 10 learning outcomes associated, and it is obviously a specialist level portfolio, so we're concentrating more on depth and breadth of knowledge for each of these. So there's really nothing new, there should be no surprises for anyone. It's really just the depth and the breadth of knowledge that we expect from the specialist portfolios, and hopefully that is actually highlighted in the way the learning outcomes are phrased. But you can all ask some questions at the end. So I'm really just going to pass on to Leonie now, who's going to take you through the resources that we've put together, and then we'll open the floor for questions at the end.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Tracey. Hello, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen and put it on presentation mode, although that's gone in front of the button that I need. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, we've put together some ideas. It's not an exhaustive list, but it's some key pointers of really good resources that you can use as a trainer or as a candidate along your way for completing the portfolio. We're going to look at websites first. So over the last couple of years, the RC Pathology portal has had some huge transformation, and it's a really, really nice website now. You do have to register. It's free to register, but they've divided it up into different levels of knowledge. So you can start from level 1 and go through all of the complexities to level 4, and it covers effusion cytology, respiratory cytology, all of the elements in terms of morphology and things that you need to be looking at in cytology preparation. So I'd highly advise to get registered and start looking at those. There's some videos and there's also some quizzes and things on there too. Other websites as well. The British Association of Cytopathology has redone all of their website, and hopefully now it's more user friendly, but also there's a lot more learning material on there. There in the education section, there's lots of free webinars, and it's worth sort of scanning through historic webinars as well. So there's really good presentations from some people internationally as well, with bringing their expertise of cytology to you. And for members, there's case studies and other sort of documentation events that you can register for as well. There's also a publication and guidance documentation if you need some good reference sources as well. Another really great website is the Eurocytology website. So that's created by the European Federation of Cytology Societies. And they have a modular system where they talk through all of the cytology and a little bit of the pathophysiology as well, with some of the more common areas that you'd expect to find in your practice. They've got some really nice images on there and it's really well explained. So I'd highly recommend hooking into the Eurocytology website. And also, if you wanted to look at different cases, perhaps maybe, I know some centres don't have that many urine samples, tap into the virtual pathology slide library at the University of Leeds as well. So they've got virtual images of different slides. So it's particularly useful if perhaps you haven't had that much exposure to a certain types of cases. They've got a search box in there, so you can type in cytology or urine cytology. There's also a lot of histology on there as well, if you wanted to look at cytology and histology correlations. And there's always YouTube. My stepdad loves YouTube. Every time I go to see him, he always tells me a story about some random thing that he's found on YouTube. But actually, there's some really, really good cytology resource on there. And the International Academy of Cytology have put a lot of their presentations from, you know, the people who write the reporting systems, you know, Dr. Ashchandra, Eva Fujic, you know, the people who are involved in writing all the books that we'll talk a little bit later. And what you'll notice in the new portfolio is actually there's reference to these reporting systems for each of the areas like serous fluids or urine cytology. And so there's lots of presentations on there that provide a nice overview rather than just sort of reading it parrot fashion from a book. Lots of the journals now, so Cytopathology, ACCA, Diagnostic Cytopathology, they have occasionally open access articles. So for example, the World Health Organization reporting system for lung cytopathology is a free open access document. So again, that will give you lots of information and the background as to why that reporting system has been presented in respiratory cytopathology. And in cytopathology, there is also on every issue now, the social media group agrees to have one that will be granted free to view access for 3 months. So if you're not a member of the BAC and you don't have access to Cytopathology Journal, you can still take advantage of the free to view articles that will be coming out from every issue. And saying that as well, that all of these journals are active on social media platforms, so LinkedIn, Twitter, which is now X, and they have regular case studies or insights into articles that might be relevant. So it's worth sort of tapping into them and following them just to see what's coming up and if there's anything new that you might want to include in your portfolio as you're working through it. This is a really, really nice article. I can't remember if it's open access, it might not be, but it's worth reading, and it covers a really practical with a practical approach on predictive testing in lung neoplasms, and this is probably the largest area within the portfolio that talks about predictive and molecular testing. So I'd highly recommend this document. I know my trust, if you tap into the library, they can access journals for you, so it might be worth getting in contact if you haven't already with your trust library, and it might be that if they can access lots of articles free for you. And there's books. I'm a big fan of the Springer books, and I have to say I'm not connected with them in any way, no financial advantage for it, but I really like the approach because there's no nonsense. They're really nice pictures. It's clear, it's concise, and it doesn't overcomplicate things. But again, going back to why we're using the reporting systems, the risk of malignancy in all of the areas, and what it means clinically, what we do in cytology, what impact does that have on the patient? As Tracey and I were going through these portfolios now, we really wanted to pull that out of the new portfolio. Is actually what we're doing in cytology, what we're doing in the lab, and how we're even preparing and presenting and reporting these samples. What does that mean for the patient at the end of it, and what does that mean to the clinicians that we're communicating to in terms of their next steps and what they're going to do with the results from the cytology samples? And these books cover all of that pathway, so I would highly recommend tapping into those books. Some other books as well. Obviously, we've mentioned the WHO reporting system. So if you've read the article and feel like you need more, then definitely the WHO reporting system for lung cytopathology, which has just recently come out over the last sort of 18 months. And, you know, it's not always about the new and the shiny. You know, the cytopathology book that was done by Badad Shambayati, you know, over the years, it's still relevant, and it's still got good content in there, which is I would highly recommend reviewing. So I think that's it from me. As I said, it's not an exhaustive list of resources, but it's just something to prompt and inspire, hopefully. And as Donna had already said, that we will be reviewing these as we go and making sure they're up to date and adding more things in. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much to both of you. Just quickly before I open up the floor and see if there's any questions, in terms of Tracey, what you were saying about the andrology and the cervical. So the cervical, as part of the current offering, should be available by the end of June. Andrology, there has been a scoping exercise, and we have looked at it, and we are going to create the specialist portfolio, and work has started on that. So I mean, we are obviously hoping to get that out as soon as possible, with the relevance of andrology to other disciplines who work cross discipline with andrology, not just cyto. So yeah, it's all happening. So I don't know if anybody has got any questions. I don't think there's anything in the chat at the moment, but if you wanted to put up a hand, we can open up your mic access and let you ask any questions, comments, or you can stick it in the chat if you don't want to speak. Oh, okay, let me just allow mic. So you should be able to unmute. Sorry, all I can see is the second name, White House. Victoria.
Hi,
Victoria,
Vicky,
hi.
yeah. I was just
Right.
wondering, with regards to the marking of the work, do you do that before and then upload the documents? Because with one file, you can mark on the actual system. I was just wondering how that works.
So it's the individual would send you the work. They can send you work through Brightspace, so you will find it in the portfolio section for you as a trainer. You can see all of your candidates, what has been sent to you. You have to download it, which I understood was the same with one file. Download it to make your comments, do whatever it is, whether you're using text box, whether you're just using different colours, and then you can upload it back into the candidate's portfolio so that they will then be able to see the marked version. But the difference between one file and, there's a few differences, but one of the differences between one file and Brightspace is that you, as the examiner, you're not going to see all of the trail. You're not going to see all the trail. So all of the evidence, the discussion, the conversation, anything that's gone back and forth will need to be in the final submitted document. The examiner is only going to see what is submitted. So it's kind of the same as now in that sense. It's just all going to be done digitally.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, Gillian, let me just find you and give you access. Okay, you should be able to unmute and speak.
Okay, thank you. Apologies, I was slightly later joining this morning, so you may already have covered this. But you had mentioned about training videos and guides available for Brightspace. Sorry, so where would they be available? Or yeah,
So they're on, they're on the website, sort of digital. So I'll stick a link into the chat actually at the moment. So yeah, because they're obviously going to be available once you have signed up, once
Yes.
you've got a candidate, but they
Yeah.
are on the website as well. So it's,
Perfect.
if you go to the specialist portfolio pages as normal,
Mhm.
you have to then go, there's like a little blue digital specialist. So you have to go to that one, and that's where the application forms. I will say at the moment, right, it's still paper-based applications. We were hoping to have the online application available, but we're still working on it. So we will have it available as soon as possible. But at the moment, every time we launch the new digital, we're taking off the option on the current specialist portfolio application form, and then it will be on the digital application form.
Okay, thank you.
So, did somebody ask? I thought somebody had asked a question, but I can't see it. So.
Yes, so on the chat there, so Gija's just made a comment about, just learned about one file. Now I'm to learn,
Yes.
and I didn't know about Brightspace, so yeah, apologies.
Yeah, it's easier. I think there's a question about the options. So basically it's when you choose, when you say, I would like to do the diagnostic cytopathology, is if you do synovial fluids in your lab, then you say, yes, I'll do that module, thank you. So I should say at the end of it, and this was obviously initially more relevant to the multidiscipline options, that you, when you get your certificate and you can print it yourself, there's a list of all of the modules that you have completed. So you'll be able to, because obviously once we start doing multidiscipline, people will have slightly different portfolios despite doing, for example, cell sciences, specialist portfolio in cell sciences. So you'll be able to download your modules, and that will go along with your certificate to show exactly what you've done. So you would be able to show whether you had done synovial or not.
Yeah, so it just gets requested at the when you're applying for the portfolio. I think Niall's asked that question. So yeah, just apply, just request it when you're applying at the start.
Good. I mean, we scheduled an hour in case there was lots of questions. It was really, it's quite simple, just to highlight the changes and just to give you the opportunity if you do any questions. And I understand that you don't have a lot of questions around Brightspace because you're not familiar with it, which, as I said earlier, it's why we're not really going to go through the training process until really people have started looking at it, or at least had a chance to watch the video. Because once you've kind of seen it, then you might start to have a few more questions. So then I'll do some sessions where it'll be open up and people will be able to ask more questions, which I will do my best to answer since Brightspace is new for all of us.
Hopefully it's going to be quite straightforward, and certainly the diagnostic, I mean, everybody's going to be very pleased the diagnostic cytopathology specialist portfolio is less than half the size it was.
I mean, I think in general there has been a restructure for different disciplines where some of the ABC parts and multiple selection parts are gone, and it's now in one module. I should say all of the modules are going to have between 7 to 10 learning outcomes. That was based on a review of all existing portfolios and looking at the knowledge and the competencies, and they varied widely, shall we say. So it's now 7 to 10 learning outcomes. I should say that also, while some of the learning outcomes might look like a question by themselves, and you could potentially ask it, some of them won't be. So it's still the same as before, no essays as part of your evidence. And therefore, as the training officer, you might be looking at some of the learning outcomes and breaking it down into a few different components. As I said, if you ask one question, it's going to be an essay, then that's not, the examiner's not going to be happy and they'll send it back to you. So yes, so the trainer will only be able to access Brightspace if they've registered with the trainee. All of the modules, the indicative content, and so on the link that I sent to you, that's the digital specialist portfolio page. So as well as the video, there's also the little booklet, basically module booklet, and it shows the learning outcomes, indicative content, module aims within that particular document. So you'll be able to see all of the content, you just won't have access to Brightspace. So when you do your application, what you'll need to do is apply for all of the trainers that are going to be doing sign off. You want to put all of their information onto the form. So it kind of gives you the option to add more. So we've kind of so that you can add a few, but you can add more if you need to. Because what we'll do is we will link on Brightspace at the beginning your training officers with your candidate. Obviously, we'll have to come through e-learning if things change, because we would have to remove training officers and add them on, for example, if people move. But yeah, so we want to put them all on at the beginning so that you've got access to all of you will only have access to the work that the trainee sends you. So for the trainee, their portfolio section is their portfolio. So they will share the work with you that they want to, but they might have lots of other bits and pieces in there. So it's going to be up to them to share it with you. You don't have access to their portfolio, which kind of fits in with a candidate-led approach to specialist portfolio to a certain extent. Just scrolling down. Anybody else get any questions that they would like to ask while we're here? This is going to be a very interesting video when it's recorded and shared. We're all just going to be, somebody will log in and be looking at it and we're all just sitting staring at the screen. I mean, if there's no more questions, we will finish. As I say, we scheduled the meeting for an hour in case people had a lot of questions. It has varied depending on the discipline that's gone live, but you guys all seem to be quite happy, which is nice. So yeah, I mean, there will obviously be other training sessions and there will be other opportunities, maybe once you've kind of had a little think about it. But yeah, look at the digital, look at the specialist portfolio digital page. All of the information as we go live is going onto that page.
Can you just remind?
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, just remind us when that's going live, Donna. When can we actually apply for this portfolio?
Monday. What date is Monday? 22nd.
Yeah,
Start to calculate it through. Sorry, Gija.
Yeah, thank you very much for all the information. I think I don't have any questions because I haven't started using it. I suppose when you start using it, you will find all the difficult bit. And like I said earlier in the chat that, I was just getting used to one file and thinking, okay, I can do this. And I didn't realize about the Brightspace. And I'm thinking, okay, I mean, it might be useful in the future and it is the way to go forward. But until you start using it, you don't know, all the technical issues you're having and how to advise the trainees and things like that.
Yeah, this is why, as I say, the videos there for people to go through. The SOP type guidance on using the system is like screenshot by screenshot. I kind of did it, hopefully lowest common denominator. I'm trying to think, what do I want to see? Because I hate it when it says press the button and you're going, where is the button? So hopefully it will be quite clear. And if it's not, I'm very happy for feedback because we'll keep improving it, making sure it's as easy to use as possible. But I think once people have started logging into the system, once people have started using it, then we're going to do the more one-to-ones. And as I say, there might be more face-to-face as well around and making arrangements to go to places to do training. But I think there's not much point having it now because, to be honest, it would be the exact same as the video with me just showing things, and when you're not familiar with it, you don't really, as you say, have all of the problems yet. Once you start to hit problems or thinking, why is this not doing what I want it to, then we'll be able to chat. Then we'll be able to have the more interactive sessions. So as I said, they'll probably be arranged May. So I'd be looking at doing one in May and then seeing what the need is really for face-to-face around the UK. Okay, so thank you to everybody who's attended. I think we've got no more questions. I say there will be further sessions, there will be opportunities to ask other questions, and there will definitely be interactive sessions on OneFile once people are a little bit more au fait with it and have started using it. But have a look at the specialist page for the digital portfolios. As I say, the quality module is on there. You can see the content and you can obviously use the information there if you're thinking about rearranging the questions that you currently have within your laboratory, if you're looking at your training plans. So you have that information whether you've got access to Brightspace or not. So you'll be able to do all of your updates before you apply. And obviously you'll need that information when it does come to applying for training approval. So if anybody had training approval soon, there is a digital, there's again on the page, there's a little digital section, and below that is where you've got the spreadsheet, for example, with all of the new modules listed rather than the old sections. So that will also be going live Monday, so that if you do happen to have training of approval, hopefully you don't, but you'll be able to submit the new documentation. Okay, I'd like to say thank you very much to everybody who attended, and thank you to Tracey and Leonie for supporting this meeting. And yeah, thank you very much. I'll be waiting on your applications.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.